London, 2006. Liv runs along the river, her bag wedged under her arm, her phone pressed between ear and shoulder. Somewhere around Embankment, the loaded grey skies over London have opened, dumping a near-tropical rainstorm across the centre of the capital, and the traffic sits stationary, the taxis' exhaust pipes steaming, their windows obscured by the breath of their passengers. "I know," she says, for the 15th time, her jacket darkened and her hair plastered to her head. "I know, yes, I'm well aware of the terms. I'm just waiting on a couple of payments that—" She ducks into a doorway, pulls a pair of high heels from her handbag and slips them on, staring at her wet palms as she realized she has nowhere to put them. Yes, no, my circumstances haven't changed. Not recently." She ducks out of the doorway and heads back on the pavement, crossing the road and heading up towards Aldwych, the wet pumps in one hand. A car sends a spray of water over her feet and she stops, staring at its departing wheels in disbelief. "Are you kidding me?" she yells. And then, "No, not you, Mr. Dean. Not you, Dean. Yes, I do appreciate you're just doing your job. Look," she says, "I'll have the payment by Monday, okay? It's not like I've been late paying before. Okay, once." Another taxi approaches, and this time she ducks neatly back into a doorway. "Yes, I understand, Dean. I know. It must be very hard for you. Look, I promise you will have it on Monday." Yes, definitely. And I'm sorry about the whole shouting thing. I hope you get the new job too, Dean." She snaps shut her phone, stuffs it into her handbag, and looks up at the restaurant hoarding. She dips to check her reflection in a car mirror and despairs. There's nothing to be done. She is already 40 minutes late. Liv smooths her wet hair from her face and glances longingly back down the street. Then she takes a breath, pushes open the door of the restaurant, and walks in. There she is! Kristen Solberg stands up from her chair in the middle of the long table and opens her arms to greet her, air kissing Liv noisily some inches from each side of her face. "Oh my goodness, you're drenched!" Her hair is, of course, an immaculate chestnut shade. "Yes, I walked. Not my best decision." "Everybody, this is Liv Halston. She does wonderful things for our charity, and she lives in the most amazing house in London." Kristen smiles beneficently, then lowers her voice. "I'll consider myself to have failed if she hasn't been snapped up by some lovely man before Christmas." There is a murmur of greeting. Liv prickles with embarrassment. She forces a smile, deliberately not meeting the eyes of any of the people seated around her. Sven looks at her steadily, in his eyes an apology for what is about to come. "I saved you a seat," Kristen says, "next to Roger. He's lovely." She gives Liv a meaningful look as she directs her towards the empty chair. "You'll love him." They are all couples. Of course they are. 8 of them. And Roger. She feels the women surveying her surreptitiously from behind polite smiles, trying to ascertain whether, as the only single woman there, she is likely to be a threat. It is an expression with which she has become wearingly familiar. The men glance sideways, checking her out for a different reason. She feels the warm, garlicky blast of Roger's breath as he leans in and pats the chair beside him. He holds out a hand. "Rog, You're very wet. He manages to make it sound faintly lascivious. The kind of ex-public schoolboy who finds it impossible to talk to women without introducing a sexual undertone. She pulls her jacket across her. Yes, yes, I am. They smile vaguely at each other. He has sparse sandy hair and the ruddy complexion of someone who spends a lot of time in the country. He pours her a glass of wine. So, what do you do then, Liv? He says her name as if she may have invented it and he is humoring her. Copywriting mainly. Well, copywriting. They both pause. Any children? No, you? Two boys, both at boarding school. Best place for them, frankly. So, no children, eh? And no man in the wings. What are you, 30s something? She swallows, tries to ignore the faint stab of his words. 30. You don't want to hang around? Or are you one of those? He holds up his fingers to make inverted commas. Career women? Yes, she says and smiles. I had my ovaries removed when I last updated my CV, just to be on the safe side. He gulps at her, then barks a laugh. Oh, funny. Yes, a woman with a sense of humor. Very good. Ovaries. His voice tails away. He takes a swig of wine. My wife left when she was 39. Apparently, it's a tricky age for the girls. He downs the rest of his glass and reaches for the bottle to refill it. Not too tricky for her, obviously, seeing as she got away with a Puerto Rican called Victor, the house in France, and half my bloody pension. Woman, he turns to her. Can't live without him, can't shoot him, huh? He lifts his arms and fires off an imaginary round of bullets into the restaurant ceilings. It's going to be a long night. Liv keeps smiling, pours herself a second glass of wine and buries herself in the menu, promising herself that, no matter how persuasive Kristen is next time, she will chew off her own arm rather than agree to go to any kind of dinner party ever again. The evening stretches. The couples bitch about people she has never met. The courses come agonizingly slowly. Kristen sends her main back to the redone to be redone to her exact specifications. She lets out a weary little sigh, as if the kitchen's failure to put the spinach on the side is the most awful imposition. Sven gazes at her indulgently. Liv sits trapped between the broad back of a man called Martin, whose wife's friend seems determined to monopolize him, and Roger. Bitch, he says at one point. I'm sorry? First it was my nostril hair putting her off, then my toenails. Always a reason why we couldn't do the old. He forms his thumb and finger into an O and slides his other index finger through it. Or a headache. No such headaches with old Victor, eh? Oh no, I bet she doesn't care how long his ruddy toenails are. He swigs from his glass, but they're at it like bloody rabbits. The lamb is congealing on her plate. She puts her knife and fork neatly together. What happened to you, then? She glances up at him, hoping he doesn't mean, but of course he does. Kristen said you were married before, to Sven's business partner? I was. Left you, did he? She swallows, composes her face into a blank. In a manner of speaking. Roger shakes his head. I don't know what's wrong with people. these days? Why can't they just be satisfied with what they're given? He takes a toothpick and digs vigorously into a back molar, pausing to examine his pickings with grim relish. Liv looks down the table and meets Kristen's eye. Kristen lifts both brows suggestively and gives her a surreptitious thumbs up. "Big hit," she mouths. "Will you excuse me?" Liv says, pushing back her chair. "I really need to visit the ladies." Liv sits in the silent cubicle for as long as she can without someone staging an intervention, listening as several women come in and perform ablutions. She checks for non-existent email and plays Scrabble on her phone. Finally, after scoring flux, she gets up, flushes the loo and washes her hands, staring at her reflection with a kind of perverse satisfaction. Her makeup has smudged beneath one eye. She fixes this in the mirror, wondering why she bothers, given that she is about to sit next to Roger again. She checks her watch. When can she beg an early morning meeting and head for home? With luck, Roger will be so drunk by the time she goes back out that he will have forgotten she was even there. Liv takes one last look at her reflection, pushes her hair off her face and grimaces at her appearance. What's the point? And then she opens the door. Liv, come here. I want to tell you something. Roger is standing gesticulating wildly. His face is even redder and his hair is standing upright on one side. It's possible that he is, she thinks, half man, half ostrich. She feels a momentary panic at the prospect of having to spend another half hour in his company. She used to this, an almost overwhelming physical desire to remove herself, to be out on the dark streets alone, not having to be anyone at all. She sits gingerly, like someone prepared to sprint, and drinks another half glass of wine. I really should go, she says, and there was a wave of protest from other occupants of the table, as if this is some kind of personal affront. She stays. Her smile is a rictus. She finds herself watching the couples, the domestic cracks becoming visible with each glass of wine. That one dislikes her husband. She rolls her eyes with every second comment he makes. This man is bored with everyone, possibly with his wife. He checks his mobile compulsively beneath the rim of the table. She gazes up at the clock, nods dully at Roger's breathy litany of marital unfairness. She plays a silent game of dinner party bingo. She scores the school fees and the house prices. She is on the verge of a last year's holiday in Europe, full house, when someone taps her on the shoulder. Excuse me, you have a phone call. Liv spins around. The waitress has pale skin and long dark hair, which opens around her face like a pair of half-drawn curtains. She is beckoning with her notepad. Liv is conscious of a flicker of familiarity. What? Urgent phone call. I think it's family. Liv hesitates. Family? But it's a silver of light in a tunnel. Oh, she says. Oh, right. Would you like me to show you the phone? Urgent phone call, she mouths at Kristen and points at the waitress, who points towards the kitchen. Kristen's face arranges itself into an expression of exaggerated concern. She stoops to say something to Roger, who glances behind him and reaches out a hand as if to stop her. And then Liv is gone, following the short dark girl through the half-empty restaurant, past the bar and down the wood-panelled corridor. After the gloom of the sitting area, the glare of the kitchen is blinding, the dulled sheen of the steel surfaces bouncing light across the room. Two men in white ignore her, passing pans towards the washing up station. Something is frying, hissing and spitting in a corner. Someone speaking rapid-fire Spanish. The girl gestures through a set of swing doors, and suddenly she is in another back lobby, a cloakroom. "Where's the phone?" Leaf says, when they came to a halt. The girl pulls a packet of cigarettes from her apron and lights one. "What phone?" she says blankly. "You said I had a call?" "Oh, that. There isn't a phone. You just look like you needed rescuing." She inhales, lets out a long silver of smoke and waits for a moment. "You don't recognize me, do you?" Mo Stewart," she sighs, when Leaf frowns. "I was in your course at uni, Renaissance and Italian painting and life drawing." Leaf thinks back to her degree, and suddenly she can see her. The little goth girl in the corner, near silent in every class, her expression a careful blank, her nails painted a violent glittering purple. "Wow, you haven't changed a bit." This is not a lie. As she says it, she is not entirely sure it's a compliment. "You have," says Mo, examining her. "You look, I don't know, geeky." "Geeky?" "Maybe not geeky. Different. Tired. Mind you, I don't suppose being sat next to Team Nice but Deem there is a barrel of laughs. What is it, some kind of singles night?" "Just for me, apparently." "Christ. Here." She hands Leaf a cigarette. "Spark that up and I'll go out and tell them you've had to leave. Gret aunt with violent palsy. Or something darker. AIDS. Ebola. Any preferences as to the degree of suffering?" She hands Leaf the lighter. "I don't smoke." "It's not for you. This way I can get two in before Dinah notices." "Will she want your share of the bill?" "Oh, good point." Leaf scrabbles in her bag for her purse. She feels suddenly light-headed at the prospect of freedom. Mo takes the notes, counts them carefully. "My tip?" she says, straight-faced. She does not appear to be joking. Leaf blinks, then peels off an extra £5 note and hands it to her. "Ta," says Mo, tucking it into the pocket of her apron. "Do I look tragic?" She pulls a face of mild disinterest and then, as if accepting that she doesn't have the appropriate facial muscles for concern, disappears back down the corridor. Leaf is unsure whether to leave or whether she should wait for the girl to return. She gazes around her at the back lobby, at the cheap coats on the rack and grubby bucket and mop underneath them, and finally sits down on a wooden stool, the cigarette useless in her hand. When she hears footsteps, she stands, but it's a Mediterranean-skinned man, his skull shining in the dim light. "The owner?" He is holding a glass of amber liquid. "Here," he says, offering it to her. And when she protests, he adds, "For the shock." He winks and is gone. Leaf sits and sips the drink. In the distance, through the clatter of the kitchen, she can hear Roger's voice lifted in protest. The scraping of chairs. She checks her watch. It is 11:15. The chefs emerge from the kitchen, pull their coats from the rack and disappear, giving her a faint nod as they pass. as if it's not unusual for a customer to spend 20 minutes nursing a brandy in the stuff corridor. When Mo reappears, she is no longer wearing an apron. She is holding a set of keys, walks past Liv, and locks the fire door. "They've gone," she says, pulling her black hair back into a knot. "Your hot date said something about wanting to console you. I'd turn your mobile off for a bit." "Thank you," said Liv. "That was really very kind." "Not at all. Coffee?" The restaurant is empty. Liv stares at the table where she had sat, as the waiter sweeps efficiently around the chairs, then distributes cutlery with the unthinking, metronomic efficiency of someone who has done this 1,000 times. Mo primes the coffee machine and gestures to her to sit. Liv would really rather go home, but understands there is a price to be paid for her freedom, and a brief, slightly stilted conversation about the good old days is probably it. "I can't believe they all left so suddenly," she says, as Mo lights another cigarette. "Oh, someone saw a message on a BlackBerry that she shouldn't have. It all kicked off a bit," Mo says. "I don't think business lunches usually involve nipple clamps." "You heard that?" "You hear everything in here." "Most customers don't stop talking when waiters are around." She switches on the milk frother, adding, "An apron gives you superpowers. It actually makes you pretty much invisible." Liv had not registered Mo's appearance at her table. She thinks uncomfortably. Mo is looking at her with a small smile, as if she can hear her thoughts. "It's okay. I'm used to being the great unnoticed." "So," says Liv, accepting a coffee, "what have you been doing?" "In the last nearly 10 years? This and that. Waitracing suits me. I don't have the ambition for bar work." She says this deadpan. "You?" "Oh, just some freelance stuff. I work for myself. I don't have the personality for office work." Liv smiles. Mo takes a long drag of her cigarette. "I'm surprised," she says. "You were always one of the golden girls." "Golden girls?" "Oh, you and your Tony crew. All legs and hair and men around you, like satellites, like something out of Scott Fitzgerald. I thought you'd be, I don't know, on telly, or in the media, or acting, or something." If Liv had read these words on a page, she might have detected an edge to them. But there is no rancor in Mo's voice. "No," she says, and looks at the hem of her shirt. Liv finishes her coffee. The remaining waiter has gone, and Mo's cup is empty. It is 11:15. "Do you need to lock up? Which way are you walking?" "Nowhere. I'm staying here." "You have a flat here?" "No, but Dinah doesn't mind." Mo stubs out her cigarettes, gets up, and empties the ashtray. "Actually, Dinah doesn't know. He just thinks I'm really conscientious. The last two leave every evening." "Why can't the others be more like you?" She jerks a thumb behind her. "I have a sleeping bag in my locker and I set my alarm for 5:30. Little bit of a housing issue at the moment. As in, I can't afford any." Liv stares. "Don't look so shocked. That banquet is more comfortable than some of the rental accommodations I have been in. I promise you." Afterwards, she isn't sure what makes her say it. Liv rarely lets anyone into the house. let alone people she hasn't seen for years. But almost before she knows what she's doing, her mouth is opening and the words, "You can stay at mine," are emerging. "Just for tonight," she adds, when she realizes what she has said. "But I have a spare room, with a power shower." Conscious that this may have sounded patronizing, she adds, "We can catch up. It will be fun." Mo's face is blank. Then she grimaces, as if it is she who is doing Leave the favor. "If you say so," she says, and goes to get her coat. She can see her house long before she gets there. Its pale blue glass walls stand out above the old sugar warehouse as if something extraterrestrial has landed on the roof. David liked this. He liked to be able to point it out if they were walking home with friends or potential clients. He liked its congruity against the dark brown brick of the Victorian warehouses, the way it caught the light or carried the reflection of the water below. He liked the fact that the structure had become a feature of London's riverside landscape. It was, he said, a constant advertisement for his work. When it was built, almost 10 years ago, glass had been his construction material of choice. Its components made sophisticated with thermal abilities, eco-friendliness. His work is distinctive across London. Transparency is the key, he would say. Buildings should reveal their purpose and their structure. The only rooms that are obscured are bathrooms, and even then he often had to be persuaded not to fit one-way glass. It was typical of David that he didn't believe it was unnerving to see out when you were on the loo, even if you were assured that nobody else could see in. Her friends had invited her this house, its location and its occasional appearances in the Better Sort of Interiors magazine. But she knew, they added privately to each other, that such minimalism would have driven them mad. It was in David's bones to drive, to purify, to clear out what was not needed. Everything in the house had to withstand his William Morris test. Is it functional, and is it beautiful? And then, is it absolutely necessary? When they had first got together, she had found it exhausting. David had bitten his lip as she left trails of clothes across the bedroom floors, filled the kitchen with bunches of cheap flowers, trinkets from the market. Now she is grateful for her home's blankness, its spare asceticism. So freaking cool. They emerge from the rickety lift into the glass house, and Mo's face is uncharacteristically animated. "This is your house? Seriously? How the hell did you get to live somewhere like this?" "My husband built it." She walks through the atrium, hanging her keys carefully on the single silver peg, flicking on the internal lights as she passes. "Your ex? Jeez, and he let you keep it?" "Not exactly." Liv presses a button and watches as the roof shutters ease back silently, exposing the kitchen to the starlit sky. "He died." She stands there, her face turned firmly upwards, bracing herself for the flurry of awkward sympathy. It never gets any easier, the explanation. 4 years on, and the words still cause a reflexive twinge, as if David's absence is a wound still located deep within her body. But Mo is silent. When she finally speaks, she says simply, "Bummer." Her face is pale, impassive. "Yep," Liv says, and lets out a small breath. "Yep, it really is." Liv listens to the 1 o'clock news on the radio, distantly aware of the sounds from the guest bathroom, the vague prickle of the disquiet that she feels whenever someone else is in the house. She wipes the granite work surfaces and buffs them with a soft cloth. She sweeps non-existent crumbs from the floor. Finally, she walks through the glass and wood hallway, then up the suspended wood and perspex stairs to her bedroom. The stretch of unmarked cupboard doors gleams, giving no clue to the few clothes behind it. The bed sits vast and empty in the middle of the room. 2 final reminders on the covers where she left them this morning. She sits down, folding them neatly back into their envelopes, and she stares straight ahead of her at the portrait of the girl you left behind, vivid in its gilded frame among the muted eau-de neon and grey of the rest of the room, and allows herself to drift. "She looks like you. She looks nothing like me." She had laughed at him giddily, still flushed with new love, still prepared to believe in his vision of her. "You look just like that when you—" The girl you left behind smiles. Liv begins to undress, folding her clothes before she places them neatly on the chair near the end of the bed. She closes her eyes before she turns off the light so that she does not have to look at the painting again.